Howdy freeze dryers, welcome back to the freeze drying community. I hope you're excited to make today's freeze drying recipe. Today's recipe is really just American comfort food. It reminds me of my childhood. Everyone loves tomato soup with a little grilled cheese dunker. We're gonna make this totally freeze dryer friendly and also make it so you can rehydrate it super easy. This will be the best tomato soup you've ever had, especially freeze dried tomato soup. And we're also gonna top it with some freeze-dried grilled cheese dunkers. So everyone and their mom knows how to make a grilled cheese sandwich, but do you know how to make a freeze-dried grilled cheese sandwich? And grilled cheese is not typically something that you would think you would want to freeze dry. But the name of the game today is just very little oil, as little as you can get away with, or none at all if you can get away with not having any. Some pans will allow you to do it low and slow heat. Normally you would just slather the outside of the sandwich with butter so you can get that crunch of a grilled cheese that you're used to. But because we're freeze drying it, you're actually gonna get the crunch from the freeze drying process instead of just cooking the oil on the outside of this. While we're slowly cooking our grilled cheese on medium heat or lower, we're gonna go ahead and put together our tomato soup. Today's recipe is going to fill a medium tray, which is about 6 cups of liquid for the soup. You can adjust for whichever size you need. We're gonna start with 1 onion and we're gonna dice this baby up. We are going to saute these onions in just a little bit of vegetable broth. You can use oil also. The only downside is you will probably not get as good of storage time out of that. So in go the onions. 4 to 5 minutes on these. You just want them to be soft and translucent. Next you want 2 cans of diced tomatoes. I really like using the fire roasted tomatoes. I think it adds a lot of flavor. Adds a little bit of spice, not a whole lot. Along with 2 cups of vegetable broth. We're gonna bring this up to a boil and then we'll let it simmer. And while this is simmering, throw in a 1/2 cup of raw cashews. And that sounds kind of like a weird thing to throw in there, but trust me, when you get these blended all together, which is what we're gonna do after this is done, this will make the creamiest tomato soup you've ever had. We're gonna bring this up to a boil and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. That'll give us some time to make some more grilled cheese. I'm gonna try some jalapeno pepper jack also. So if you're strategic, you have a grilled cheese that was made with no oil, and then we can cut this up into little bites, use it as a topper for our soup. I think I am actually going to cut the crusts off. Not because I don't like the crust, but I think they will actually freeze dry better if there is no crust on the edge, because I think that edge part will probably get really, really crispy. So we're just gonna take those edges off. Don't worry, these will not go to waste. Who wants a grilled cheese? So then I'm gonna cut it into a little bit smaller pieces. I think that if you go into almost like a crouton size, I think it'll do the best because it will not be overwhelmingly crunchy, but it will give you a nice little crispy crunch with the soup. And then onto a freeze dryer tray. We're gonna pre-freeze all of this today. The benefits of pre-freezing are huge. 1 slightly burned grilled cheese, jalapeno grilled cheese sandwich. Don't judge me for burning it. That's the way I like them. You do you. You make this yours. There's really no trick to a grilled cheese with no oil. You just obviously don't want to burn it, and you want to make sure that your cheese is melted enough that it's kind of acting as a glue to hold this all together. As I load our tray up with the last bit of our grilled cheese bites, I want to mention the freeze drying cookbook. It has gone through a major facelift lately. We've updated many of the recipes with new pictures, nutrition facts, better rehydration methods, just better tips in general. And we've really tried to make it so it suits everyone's needs, whether you have specific diet needs or you just have different tastes, different cooking styles, different flavor preferences. Whatever it is, there's a little bit of something for everyone in the freeze drying cookbook now. And as a baseline, it took me 6 sandwiches to fill up this medium tray. And now coming back to our soup, your cashews should be soft. Everything should be soft because we're gonna go into a blender next. We're gonna smooth this out so it's just super creamy, super smooth consistency. And now we're going to transfer this to a blender. If you want to sweeten this up a bit, you can add just a little bit of sugar. You can also add salt if you want that. But we're going to blend this into a smooth consistency. That gave us 6 cups of finished product. We'll transfer this onto a freeze dryer tray. We're gonna pre-freeze this after we pop a lid on it. And a little pro tip for you, if you are close to where you're freezing it, it's a lot easier if you pour this into the trays where you're going instead of trying to walk and do a balancing act to try not to spill tomato soup everywhere. Do as I say, not as I do. Into the freezer. We'll go into the Harvest Right app, we'll select soup, press start, open. That's gonna start our freeze dryer and we will be ready in 15 minutes. Into the Harvest Right we go. If you are interested in Harvest Right freeze dryers, make sure you check out our link down in the description. Make sure you also check out the freeze drying community, Facebook group, YouTube channel, and all of our other socials. Stick around for some freeze-dried tomato soup with grilled cheese toppers. This only took us about 13 hours. We'll take these upstairs and we'll rehydrate them and see how we turned out. And here's our finished product. I forgot to put my dividers in for some silly reason, so I actually just pushed them in after they were done. It gives you a good idea for portion amounts, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second when we blend it into a powder. Even if you push them in after, it still makes a nice cube so you can get a good serving amount. We're gonna bag these up, and then I'm gonna take one portion out. I'm gonna blend it into a powder, then we'll rehydrate that one. What I'm gonna do next is take 2 of our squares. So this would be 2/10 of a tray. One of the medium trays was 6 cups of liquid per our recipe. So these 2/10 would equal to be about 1 cup plus 1/5 of a cup for a serving size. I think that's a pretty reasonable serving size. We're gonna see how much powder this makes, and that way if you want to just keep this in bulk, you can take a certain amount of powder out, add a certain amount of water in, and just have a rehydration formula. About a half a cup of powder. And this will vary slightly just based on your ingredients and how much you process it down into a powder. Let's see how much water we need to add to it. We'll add our half cup of powder. And then I'm using hot water. You don't necessarily have to. I'm gonna start out with a cup of liquid. I added a cup of hot water. You could probably go a little less if you wanted a thicker tomato soup. Depending on whether you use powder or you leave the tomato soup in the blocks, it's gonna have a little bit difference in how long you need to let it sit and then keep stirring, and also how quickly it will rehydrate. And now we can add our grilled cheese dunkers on top. Those are gonna add a nice little crunch to the soup. And the most important part of every freeze drying video is a taste test. This is a great freeze drying recipe. It's super healthy. It's very hearty and filling. Those little grilled cheese toppers just add a whole lot to the soup. Thanks for joining me today on the freeze drying community. If you want to stay informed on the latest freeze drying news, tips, recipes, etc., make sure you click that first link down in the description, or you can stay tuned after this video to see how. Hey, you! Are you unlocking your full potential as a freeze dryer? If you're not signed up for the freeze drying community email list, you're missing out on pro freeze drying tips and freeze dryer giveaways, the latest sales, inspirational people in the freeze drying community, as well as invaluable food storage recipes. And most important, unlocking your inner freeze drying guru. Click the first link in the description to get signed up.